Is there any bands that stick out to you? Is there any particular heroes that really stand out on a map like Meltdown?
Well, you know, we've seen throughout the day some very common bans, and you heard some picks there. They're really afraid of Boulder, so you'll probably see Boulder taken out during the ban phase. Another character, Beatrix, who's kind of a sniper with some support, really great team support abilities. You'll probably see her pulled out. I've also heard both of these teams comment about the strength of Thorn, who's our sniper, again, with some good area. And then we start right off with Kelvin, another big tanky defender. And Caldarius. Caldarius was, they actually mentioned, they said, we fear you as Caldarius, so it's not uncommon in the ban phase to see you pick off a player that you know the other team is going to be strong with. What do you think for the other two, Skellion?
Yeah, well, this Caldarius one was pretty surprising. I feel like we, you know, I keep saying Gold, and I keep saying, oh, someone's going to ban Gold against Dunk Squad, but nobody seems to be agreeing with me. But, you know, they did see kind of Dunk Squad showed them maybe how to shut that down. I'd imagine we'll see Boulder. I think they're probably just a little bit more worried about that.
Yep, there goes the Boulder pick, and that's going to leave. It looks like Dunk Squad over here with one more choice. What do you think?
I'd imagine Beatrix or Thorn. You know, they might take something out of left field, just something they feel that, I don't know, I'm blanking. Lost Heroes might want for their comp. And actually, yeah, Galilei, I mean, that's another solid one. Just
that was definitely one of the most banned heroes in this game.
The most banned heroes during the pre-qualifier.
Correct.
So Galilea, again, a super defender tanky character, has a lot of versatility, a lot of range. She's a melee character, but does a lot of damage and has a lot of defense, can be a really big problem for some teams.
Now, going into this type of game, this is a MOBA, and of course, team comps do matter. So, what is some traditional team comps or ways that these guys are going to be picking out their teams?
There's a few different approaches to it. I mean, we've definitely seen some double support come out, but I would say generally you're looking for probably like two people who can initiate a fight in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Wrath still comes up as an initiator, even though we traditionally think of it as being, you know, Galt, Kelvin, Boulder, Galilea. You know, so we'll be looking for, you know, probably two solid initiators, or at least, you know, maybe compensate at one good initiator and then two like solid CC, and then, you know, mix the damage. We've seen some people play without support. So
now of course
that can depend.
Of course, we're playing Meltdown, and Meltdown's a little bit of a unique game mode. You know, again, both of the game modes we'll see today, Meltdown and Incursion, will be kind of familiar to more MOBA fans. You'll see a lot of these NPC minions, these little guys that come through that are very important to both game modes, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. In Meltdown, you win the game by escorting your minions kind of across these goal lines into these gates called grinders. For the different size of minions you get in there, you score different points. The first team to 400 points is going to win the first phase of Meltdown and push the game into the finale phase at an advantage, where they're going to get these giant minions that you have to one more time get across that goal line. So that's Meltdown, and you're going to see some character selections here, like Thorn over here is a really good one for Meltdown. Not only is Thorn kind of our archer with big single target damage, but Thorn has some ability to do some AoE and some control, both with an ability called Blight, which is kind of a puddle on the ground, and then a volley where she fires literally a multiple of like 3 to 7 arrows at the same time. It can do a lot of clearing of those minions as well as damage against players.
Yeah, and so the other big factor we'll be seeing, I mean, we score primarily through the minions. And part of that is what I call the elite minions, big bots, or, you know, what do you guys call them internally? It was like baby.
We call them we call them fat toddlers for the long time, because they kind of look like cute little fat babies as they toddle down the lane, right? I think the technical name is super minions, but we are elite minions depending on what variety and flavor you get of them. But yeah, we call them fat toddlers.
Yeah, but so we'll be seeing a lot of those coming out. Generally, we'll be seeing teams. Those bots can be summoned by using your shards. Your shards are also how you activate your gear and build your other deployables like turrets. But this way you can basically turn your shards into potential points.
So actually that brings up a great point here. Let's talk about economy when it comes to Battleborn, right? Every MOBA has an economy. Everyone has gold that you earn. So let's go from the bare bone basics. How do you earn currency? How do you earn shards in this game? And what are some things that you can spend it on?
So shards are normally earned by picking them up. They're pickups throughout the map. You know, a lot of MOBAs you earn money by killing minions or last-hitting minions like that. And moving kind of the MOBA formula to an FPS game and finding that blend. we wanted traversal of the map and exploring and moving up and down and speed of that to be really important. So we wanted it to be kind of that classic FPS pickup, and it's worked really well for us. So you pick up shards. There are little ones that spawn all over the map, and they respawn at regular intervals. There are larger shards at a couple of distinct points in the map, kind of control points, that you have to actually fight for a little bit. You break up through several stages, and they yield a big chunk of shards. You turn around and use that for two big important things. One is for buildables. Now, there are multiple types of buildables. There's turrets that can be used to help control territory. There are healing stations that let you recover, especially if you don't have a support character near. There are accelerators that speed your team up and slow the enemy team down. And then finally, as Skellion mentioned, there are the super minions that you can buy. Now, they're kind of a big purchase on that, and you can buy them with regular intervals. So you'll see teams that do that spend and control all of that territory. Once something's been built, they, of course, can be destroyed. You can build it again a little bit later. The other thing that you spend the shards on are gear. Just like all the great Gearbox games, we are Gearbox. We have to make gear in a game, right? So we added gear to Battleborn. Gear is a way to further customize your character by statistically equipping a loadout. Now, each player can bring 3 pieces of gear to the match. They don't start active in most cases. You have to spend those shards to activate them and turn them on, and that activates them, giving you a statistical advantage.
Gotcha. Now, we're of course going to be getting into our battle shortly. Guys, this is it. This is going to be a big one. This is the start of our grand finals here. This is going to be intense. So we're kicking things off. Big thank you to all the sponsors for this event so far. Chocktaw, Gearbox, of course, Zowie, Versus Gameplay, Salty Mayhem, Panda X Gaming, Vertigear, Monster, Gaming Capital Group, VGT, AGS, For Honor Legends, Gamblet Gaming. All of these guys are making this grand finals possible for you right now. And we're kicking things off right here. So let's start. Let's talk a little bit also about gear a bit more here. So, of course, you're going to be seeing the gear loadouts on the far right-hand side. Can you talk to me, guys, about what you find that's interesting here, or maybe anything that's out of place?
Yeah, so the big strategy we'll see coming out, primarily in Meltdown, is what's called an economy build. And what you'll see here is this is marked by the wrench and the little shard with a kind of circle around it. Basically what these are is these items are free because they have one bonus and one negative. And in this case, the wrench makes buildables cost less, and the shard item gives you a small feed of shards every second. I want to say this will be about 2 shards a second. And the reason for this is those guys are going to opt, they're going to be doing the large majority of building the super minions. And when you build them, you get a small amount of XP. I mean, it's definitely not as much as you're getting from kills or killing the minions. But it's enough, it helps you just pad out for characters who are going to need a little bit more XP.
So speaking of XP, and as every MOBA, everyone loves to level up. So can we talk about leveling up in this game? What are some benefits that you can get? And maybe we can talk about something a little bit technical here and talk about power spikes and where we can kind of anticipate some of those.
Well, just like every great MOBA and every great RPG, you level up. In Battleborn, every time you play, you start at level 1. You can level up to a max of 10 levels in a game. And the game links, run about 15 to 25 minutes, depending on how they go. I think they cap at 30. And you'll usually see someone get that. Here's First Blood by one of our characters there. Again, Ice starting off right at the game, getting a kill on Shane as Galt. He is a devastating Galt player, already starting off. Not surprising that he got First Blood. So back to levels, you get experience by doing several things. Certainly by killing players, killing minions, and also building buildables, as Skellion mentioned. All of those things contribute up. You'll see an experience bar right down to the bottom left where it says level 01. You see that little circle ring down there that shows you how close a character is to leveling. As you level up, every time you level in Battleborn, you get to pick from a helix. There are opposing choices each level. You pick a left helix or a right helix choice that can accentuate different skills that the Battleborn have, making you strong in different areas. Gives you a lot of adaptability in the game to different opposing comps, to different maps, to different modes, different ways that you just might prefer to build out your Battleborn. The other thing that happens as you level up, you talked about power spikes. A very important one is level 5. At level 5, that's when these characters are going to unlock their ultimate ability. The ultimate ability, of course, as you recall from MOBAs, very similar to play there. They're a big, iconic ability for the character that has a long cooldown time on it that can make a big difference in an engagement, usually in the spirit of whatever that character is.
And generally the other, when we're talking about the gear versus the Helix is, the Helix is that adaptable choice. It's what you make, some of them are going to be on the fly, some of them are going to be, the idea you had for the character coming in. But the gear is, that's planned out. You bring that load out of 3 items in, so you really have to come in knowing what you want to do with that. And then the Helix is where you adjust a little bit to how the game's going on the fly.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this earlier. We saw several characters on their loadouts actually bring in gear that was common, what we call flawed common gear. Every once in a while, gear drops as loot in Battleborn. So as you play the game, you can open loot packs, you can get them randomly from our story missions and all of that, and you can get this huge collection. Now, for the sake of the tournament, we limited it down to 40 very carefully selected pieces that we wanted to help establish a little bit of a tournament meta with the gear. But flawed gear is gear that actually has an attribute on it that gives you a negative on something. What you get from that is it's a lot cheaper. It actually reduces the shard activation cost for the gear. One of the most popular pieces of gear in the tournament has been a flawed common piece of gear that takes it from, I think, an activation cost of around 150 or 200 shards down to 0, which means you can literally activate it right at the beginning. What they do is they run the piece of gear that we have for that. It's a shard generator. So it literally is a 0-cost piece of gear that you take a small detriment to an ability, but it just constantly generates shards throughout the match without having to pick them up, giving you the ability to activate either larger gear or to build more buildables or super minions as the match progresses.
And while we're on the shard comments, so Randy alluded that there's little shard pickups you go around and there's the big ones you kill. So the big ones you kill, there'll be 3 up the sides and then 1 in the middle on most maps, or most Meltdown maps rather. And those spawn in at 28 and then 2 minutes after they're killed. So that becomes a little bit of just a sub-objective, and a map control factor, right, is, right at 28, if you're controlling the middle and you're pushed up, that means you can get all 3 of those middle ones and come out to a nice little economy bonus. And normally you're going to see early on that being used to build a lot of these elite bots, which, as we're seeing, I mean, these things are coming out. They have a minor cooldown on how you can build them. They are literally coming out on cooldown because they are worth a little less than an entire wave.
Right. Now, minions that you kill also do drop shards, either when you kill or when they go in the gate. Occasionally, as you look around the map, you'll see these little pile of glowing crystals, like right at the gates or on the ground. Players sweep by, they just have to run over to pick them up. It's another way to get shards. It's not a lot, but it does stack up over the game. And we've seen some really interesting play here. Just a minute ago, you watched Ice on Dunk Squad, who's playing golf. Kind of moved to the backfield. He got a couple of good kills and then progressed onto the enemy's backline. And you actually saw him go ahead and clean up and destroy a number of buildables. He's going to do that to maintain an advantage back there. It's going to force Lost Heroes to spend those shards that they could be using to activate gear for early advantage on rebuilding those late game buildables later on. So it's a really smart move, again, kind of playing a counter economy type of strategy, using Golf's dominance and close-up shotgun damage to really wreck those buildables.
And there we're seeing, I mean, good use from Whiskey Foxtrot and Gold, just getting some CC in and hurting Ernest, the flying bird with the grenade launcher, and managing to get that kill there. We haven't seen a ton of Whiskey. He's come up here and there, a little more than his clone brother Oscar Mike, but also a little surprising to see Dunk Squad playing. They've definitely been preferring more melee aggressive, so was a bit of a surprise pick for them.
Well, when you see Lost Heroes pick up a character like Beatrix, who's been really, really strong, in fact, banned in a number of matches here, they may be looking at a little bit more distant precision aim to try to neutralize her effect on the battlefield. She's also a long-range character, has a sniper scope and a long range, so there's going to be a counter there, but there may be some back-and-forth trade-off that they're trying to pick up to that.
So at 100 here, you're seeing an early lead with Dunk Squad, and they're starting to break away a little bit more. The idea here is they're trying to get to their first initial goal of hitting 200, correct?
Correct. That will force so they're going to these kind of mid-map grinder gates. When they get to 200, they'll have to go to the back grinder gates, meaning they have to escort their minions kind of double the distance through the map, it usually is kind of a balancing factor. And in fact, if Dunk Squad pushes to an early 200, one of the advantages you might see Lost Heroes capitalize on, in fact, we've seen that several times they've matched up in Meltdown before, is to use that Dunk Squad's having to work twice as hard to get the minions to their gates. Lost Heroes now are still going to their early gates, so there's a really great balancing factor that a good team like Lost Heroes can use to make up that deficit if it happens early in the match.
Definitely tons of counterplay to be found. And it looks like we're seeing an early leap going over to Dunk Squad. But is there anything that you notice offhand that maybe you can see some correcting from Lost Heroes? Or so far, it seems like there's been good positioning. Overall, there's been a couple of skirmishes here and there, and it seems like either one of them has also picked their battles pretty selectively, correct?
They're doing really well. You see here, I mean, we're looking at this section of the map. You see down in the bottom right-hand corner, Dunk Squad already has a turret up. Now, we didn't talk, I don't think we talked about this all day, but all of the buildable stations, the turrets or the healing pods or the accelerators, not only can you build them, but you can spend additional shards on them to level up. So as you level them up, you can level them up to a level 3. So a level 1 just does kind of basic damage. Level 2 does more damage or more, slower, whatever. Level 3 adds that bubble shield around the buildable that you see that makes it that much harder for them to take down. Adds a lot more defense to it. So Dunk Squad is actually spending some early shard economy, probably feeling confident that they have some shard generators in there, getting some of these mid turrets up to level 3 with that bubble shield around it, which really helps them to control the minion waves that are progressing through there. So those turrets are automatically attacking enemy minions and then turning to players in there, and just that little incidental damage really to pull it down.
So by spending that early economy and spending that early cash that they had on hand, they invested in their defense early so they can focus on going out there, team fighting, and then creating opportunities for themselves and freeing up their hands, correct?
Yeah, and that comes at the price of generally you could still bring purple gear, but the highest rarity of gear besides legendaries, which aren't allowed in this tournament. But it's going to be harder to activate those. Those will cost like somewhere between 800 and 1200 depending on what they do, and so it's really hard to try and pay for one of these when fully upgrading a turret's like 1200 or something, I think I want to say, by default. So, you're basically, that's the equivalent of getting a purple item. So you got to be like, okay, you get some XP out of it, and you actually get more XP for each rank you add. So it's like 24, 36, 72 or something. The XP actually goes up quite a bit to make it more efficient to build the higher levels. But it's definitely, you're losing a little late game power, but you're also getting your levels faster. So there's a decision there about if you're more item or level dependent.
Yeah, that's true. You are getting experience out of that, so it's helping you level up a little bit. But you also are just accentuating that early game control. And what we've seen over and over and over from Dunk Squad are really aggressive comps. You're going to watch them later on Incursion. They have a couple of builds on Incursion where they speed run. They really get in. Again, look at this. Again, investing into aggressiveness. 16-6 already just on the kills. Only 7 deaths on Dunk Squad in that. With no surprise, Ice coming out with Galt play there. With 5 kills to 2 deaths. Whiskey Foxtrot, which is a Mega Beef Bowl, 4-1.
Yeah, and something to note here when you're just talking about the teams is it's not just about the kill differential, it's the assists. We're looking at Lost Heroes, their kills equal their assist, right? They're not, someone's helping a little bit with them, but there's not a lot of cohesion where it's like 16 to 28. Everyone pitches in for every kill on Dunk Squad, right? These guys, and a lot of that comes from they chain their CC or they chain their ability use to help burst someone down. So we are seeing them, they have gotten to the second grinder, taking out a 150-point lead right now, which actually, as I say, has gone a little below that. But one thing we will be seeing now is they're getting a little bit of a level advantage, not too much of it, but is the respawn times are going to start getting a little longer now, combined with them needing to get into those second set of grinders. We probably will see a little bit more relative scoring coming in for Lost Heroes. You'd expect them to start catching up, not necessarily passing them, but shrinking that gap just a little bit.
Now you saw exactly what you were talking about a minute ago, where Galt was running through. Shane and Aurochs jumped over them, and even though Galt wasn't going to follow or engage Shane and Aurochs, got like 5 or 6 relatively close shotgun blasts on Shane and Aurochs as Shane and Aurochs ran through on a retreat. again, that's the kind of thing you see on Dunk Squad. Again, really getting those assists, just doing a little bit of what might seem to be negligible damage as they come through, but it converts into things like, oh, it's actually really bad news for Dunk Squad. Ernest coming in with a double kill. That's going to be, wow, that's going to be 4 of Dunk Squad down here. A really great advantage for Lost Heroes to turn it around and get that push. You're actually seeing them now at this point creep back up on the score. They're moving their score up. They've got the 77. They're getting rid of some of Dunk Squad's super minions. They've kind of frozen Dunk Squad at 210.
And there's definitely something here to talk about. When it comes to MOBAs, of course we talk about the economy, but what's also really important is to know that when you die, there are consequences, because not only does the team get maybe an advantage when it comes to gold, but you also are losing one of the most valuable assets in a MOBA, time. And
That's
by
right.
being put on a respawn timer and not being in lane to help either contest or push or have some sort of objective being completed on your own, you're also losing out of that aspect as well, correct?
Yeah, one thing absolutely, we saw something interesting there. Even though they got 4 on the deck, besides the points they got from the kills, they didn't get a lot else, and that's because these minion waves come out at static timings. You can bring out the elite bots whenever you want, although you normally try to get them roughly with the timing of your waves so they're going in. So even though they got 4 good kills, and that's really helpful for them, the timing of it was all the minions were dead except one of Dunk Squad's elite bots, so they couldn't really get much out of it. They could do a little damage to some of the structures, maybe if Dunk Squad had turrets up in the mid or accelerators, whatnot, but so there's always a factor there. It's not just about, who you kill, it's about when you kill them.
Right, now we see it's actually Dr. Ho-Ho here on Wrath running through, and now we're looking at Phoebe, who is Phoebe played by Red X. One of his favorite characters. It's kind of his girl. Phoebe's really great. Phoebe is again, another great melee character, but has an ability to phase. She can short distance teleport around the map, which gives her a lot of versatility in either initiating, but probably more often used as an escape. She goes in, she rushes in, she gets with those melee hits, she turns around, she uses that teleport to get away and get out and move around. Really important. Again, Battleborn is not a short time to kill shooter. It's not a really quick one-shot twitch shooter. You're not going to see a lot of 360 no-scoping in Battleborn. Yeah. It really is a game of precise teamwork, of tactical thought, and really understanding the interplay between different characters and their abilities. Alani, we're following here. In fact, I'll one more comment before we take over. Alani is one of the best burst healers in the game. Now, you see these little blue dots in the middle of the screen here with Alani. Those are her charges. As she does damage with her main attack, that she shoots those water bolts out there, you're going to see the charges built up, which means when she goes into heal a target, it's going to do a bigger heal. She's already at full charge. She just uses it there, a big heal on either a Shepherd minion as she escorts it in or another player.
Yeah, it's also worth noting, just one of those little things with Alani, she actually does reduce healing to herself. So even though she has very strong healing, she's pretty susceptible to focus fire, just like you'd expect someone like Miko, just because even if she can use it on herself, it's half effectiveness, so, not quite as good.
But it still makes her really, really strong for an escape, and that was Alani's other ability right there, pulling an enemy up into a bubble. Tried to convert it to a kill. Shane and Orox kind of came in and messed it up a little bit, caught Phoebe, who was going in there, trying to capitalize on that. Again, you're seeing some really good team play and counterplay on both teams in there, and both using the crowd control, the CC abilities, and encountering that with other crowd control abilities. It looks like Phoebe finally coming in and getting Toby, converting that to a kill. Thorn actually getting a kill on Galt there. Thorn being played by a Mecha Panda there. Really awesome, solid Thorn play on that, getting a kill on ice on the opposing team.
Yeah, so we mentioned Helixes earlier, and unlike a lot of games where you're leveling up and the abilities get more powerful, there's also a lot of choices that can change how your abilities work. And we've actually seen Shane and Orox here. Traditionally, when Shane sends Orox out to grab someone, it pulls him in. But she's actually appears to have opted for a Helix that turns it into a 2-second stun instead, but does not pull them in. So, a little more helpful against melees who might be rushing down. It gives you a stun option instead of just a pull, which maybe you don't want to necessarily pull those other melees right up next to you.
Yeah, that's definitely useful against a team running both Wrath and Phoebe, who are very slippery, fast, or escapey. Phoebe with the teleport melee characters, converted to a stun gives you a lot more opportunity to pull damage on the team.
And also there, just another fun Helix that changes something there. We're seeing Thorn has opted for two different things. One, she can double her jump height. The other one, she can make her quick melee actually knock her back. So we see there, she's using that a lot to kind of get super high jumps and get up ledges that you normally wouldn't need to walk around and find a ramp for.
Well, and that's actually a really smart choices on Thorn's build, because if you take double jump height on Thorn, one of the things that can be very dangerous about that is you kind of float through the air. You become very susceptible to ranged attack. But taking that quick melee kind of air movement that knocks you back means that you can change your direction in midair, which can actually make you a harder target.
But it does look like now we're seeing Lost Heroes, 3 on the deck. Dunk Squad pushing up. They're going to immediately wipe out this wave. They're already at 329. They're going to lose Whiskey on the other side, but getting this kind of push in, unfortunately, doesn't look. I'm not sure if they have elite bots for this timing push, but it doesn't look like they do. In any matter, they'll be pushing themselves pretty close to the win right now. They only need about 70 points to put it into a finale, and they'll have a solid advantage coming into that.
And look at that Galt with that great Ernest pull and a follow-up with a kill. That was a big play right there. Ernest could have put a lot of damage in on that minion wave really quick. I don't know that they're going to get all those minions in. They may have already cleared it. I think Shane and a couple other players were there. But it was definitely a good effort by Galt to take someone out. Now he's going to ult to take down the super minion on the other side. Again, stacking in. It looks like over close to 2,000 damage on that super minion, bringing him down.
Yeah, and they were seeing, I mean, using that trap. Normally actually he's going to get picked off here. A nice wrap by Lost Heroes, recognizing that Galt had overextended just a little bit trying to solo kill that wave. But what I was about to say, you know, that trap normally used to slow down players, but there still does some damage to some of the helix choices you make. It can actually cause it to do more damage, so it can be useful there for helping clear out the minion waves. And right now we're seeing, looks like, this elite bot looks like it's getting distracted pretty hard by Alani. So these elite bots do want to try to get down to the grinders, but they can kind of be manipulated a little bit by players. I mean, they'll keep aggro, so they won't just walk by you. So you can, in that degree, kind of body block them and draw their aggro away to slow them down.
And they can be hooked by Galt, correct? So Galt can actually take them in deep position, and we've seen some of the play of that, especially with Dunk Squad, ice on Galt. He gets those things in some weird precarious positions. He'll get up on a ledge or something like that, and you'll see him with those elite bots and pull them up to where they have a really hard time kind of getting back down to their path. Really long distracted paths, which again allow you just to stack damage on them and take them out of play before they ever become a threat. Red X following in on here, trying to get a good follow-up with Thorn, who again is using that jump height and some of the air stall. Gonna ultimately get an escape, so Red X shifts over to Beatrix, trying to take her down. Really tough. Beatrix just slips away, and Red X gonna have to withdraw to get away from the kind of focus damage. No, he's still chasing Beatrix. It's a one-on-one. He's in on here. He's got some poison on him. Again, really tough. Gets behind her, turns around, and gets the kill. Red X there, and now taunting in the middle of an enemy team. Really dangerous, but he's going to get away with the play, and that's going to take us out of regulation into Meltdown finale play. A really aggressive push there by Red X. Not something surprising to see from Dunk Squad, but in tournament play, a really kind of ballsy move right there at the end.
So coming into the finale, we'll see a lot of the matches, if you've been watching early, you'll see they've just had a V1 bot because it's not a large advantage, but they've had a pretty good score, so they're getting themselves a V4 bot here.
So let's just go back and reiterate exactly how Finale works. So up until this point, you know, we've been seeing these guys building up resources, collecting those minions, and now we're getting to this point of the finale. And with Dunk Squad having that advantage, we're seeing a V4 coming out. So can you explain a bit more about these Ultra bots that are coming out?
Certainly. So the winner of the first phase will get a singular wave. They'll get 2 Ultra bots spawning just for their team because they won the first phase. That's the reward. And the strength of the Ultra bots, there'll be versions 1 through version 7, depends on the difference in the score at the end of the first phase. Dunk Squad win with a pretty big advantage, so they're starting off with pretty big Ultra bots. Now, if Lost Heroes can muster a defense and kill both of the Ultra bots here, both teams will have Ultra bots that spawn in a second round. Usually you're going to see it at this level of competition. I believe that they're going to come in. Though, man, that Wrath double kill against Lost Heroes right there was a really big factor. Lost Heroes has got to get back across the map, Have they taken me up? They took out both Ultra Bots, and now you're going to see both teams get 2 Ultra Bots on either side moving through this phase, if I read the messaging there correctly. Now, what will happen is every time the Ultra Bots spawn, they will continue to level up. You'll see them get more powerful as the subsequent waves of Ultra Bots spawn. Lost Heroes is going to continue to maintain that strength advantage in difference, but both teams are going to have Ultra Bots you have to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing the Dunk Squad still maintaining that lead. They've been getting a lot of kills as well. So, and right now picking up a nice double, Wrath ulting in as well, and they've taken out Lost Heroes Ultra Bot in very short order. There's only 3 people alive, and only Toby's really in position right now to help this. So this could be the win right here.
Toby getting flanked again by the melee characters. A great choice from Wrath and Phoebe getting back out there. Galt trying for a pull and missing it. Alani with an amazing a heal right there in the middle of it. Thorn trying to flank, putting a lot of damage down on that Ultra Bot. Lost Heroes may have enough to keep that out of the gate, and I really thought Dunk Squad had it there, but oh, they still may. It's coming through. They're shepherding it pretty well. Just a sliver, no, and Beatrix is going to come on and take out that bot. Really going to take it now to the next wave. It's still sudden death, even though 2 Ultra Bots spawn per side. You only have to get 1 in to secure the win. So literally a lot of the strategy, and it's going to happen right here. Dunk Squad distracting that Ultra Bot, does the little front flip, gets the Ultra Minion in, and secures the win here on Meltdown in the first match in the Grand Finals.
Dunk Squad, of course, coming out on top here and had a fantastic performance. Granted, they came into that finale with a bit of an advantage. They had shown a great performance and had a lot of strong presence in the team fights. Now, granted, all that being said, when you have guys like this that are constantly looking for those fights, that are also spending their resources smart and using that economy early on creating defensive turrets, and also saying, you know what, we're going to go for those early tempo kills. We're going to get on the board early, and we're going to continue to take that tempo and reign it through the entire match. You know, when it comes to the guys like this, what is some of the counterplay that we can talk about here?
Well, I think Skellion mentioned it best in Pick and Ban. I really do think that one of the things Lost Heroes is going to have to consider very strongly is taking Galt away from Dunk Squad in this next match. Now, he's maybe not quite as devastating on Incursion. Well, I don't know. He's pretty devastating on Incursion as well as Meltdown. He's a big factor there. And Ice, who picks up and plays Galt, is, again, one of the best Galt players in the universe. Really, really powerful with them. You should see him on PC. I mean, he's normally a PC player. He's translated his Galt skills to the controller here, went 18-6.
It's interesting, actually. Dunk Squad says that, or they feel that Galt's actually much more powerful on Incursion, that he's, you know, right up there, top 3, top 4 characters. Where in Meltdown, you know, he fits solidly in kind of the AAA plus tier, where he's good. You're probably almost always going to pick him, but you're not necessarily going to ban him. But I want to highlight, we talked about this mid-match, but it became even more stark post-game, which is that Lost Heroes, 22 kills, only 14 assists. Dunk Squad, 46 kills, 74 assists. And you can see that it's not just about the damage. It's, you know, Whiskey would be putting his sticky grenade on someone and using the helix to slow him down, and you could tell immediately he called it out, like, you know, such and such is slowed, they're slowed, and immediately Wrath or Phoebe's moving over there to try and finish up that kill, get in front of them to start a body block. You know, they're really working together, and they're realizing, you know, Randy talked about it being a slow TTK game. You know, you can get your solo kills, but at the end of the day, there's only so much room before they're going to kind of be in safe space, right? Or safe territory where they're going to be away from you. So you really need to be getting like 2 or 3 people on someone to really secure those kills.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking at the stats here, here's another couple of things to call out. I mean, look at the damage dealt between the teams. 510,000 on Lost Heroes to 525,000 on, it's only a 10,000 damage difference. That's not a lot of difference for the amount of damage dealt there. The game was won in other places, and I think, Skelly, you were talking about some things that are very important, but look at the healing given. I mean, Alani, a major factor in there. Alani healing 56,000 points of damage, whereas really, it was only Shane and Orox, which I think is a lifesteal. I think it's a self-heal in there on that. Really getting some, I'm not sure where that healing's coming from for Shane and Aurochs. Very little healing coming in from that. Very little support being given to Lost Heroes. I think they were trying to play, again, a little bit more of that aggressive build, taking a Beatrix for, that's probably what it was, Beatrix giving some life steal in on those more aggressive characters with Shane and Aurochs when she went in and engaged, getting that back on that. But really trying a Beatrix Ernest for attack speed, a little bit more aggressive build on that.
Now, we should be going into Incursion for our next map here. And that is one of the two variants that we have here. And it looks like we're going to be going over to Echelon. So let's talk a little bit about Incursion, kind of once we get through some of this picks and bans phase.
Sure.
But I guess kind of give people a bit of idea, just a basic idea of what they can get from a variant like Incursion, right?
Sure, and I think we'll do that. Skelly and I will do the 1-2 punch like we do, and I'll give you what I think designers say about it, and then Skeleton will give you what actually is going on here. So Incursion, in very simply expressed, kind of one of the most straightforward MOBA-esque modes that we have in the game. Mm-hmm. It really is about going to the enemy base and wrecking it. The base in Incursion is represented in the form of 2 spider sentries. In MOBA terms, they kind of take the place of towers, of fixed positions where you have to go in, progress through the map in kind of this great single lane tug of war, and take down the front sentry, which is a little bit lighter, and then you win the game by actually destroying the back sentry. Now, the game timer only lasts 30 minutes. If you get to the time and the last sentry is not dead, it will go to the team who has done the most damage on the enemy team's sentries.
Sure.
There's some other elements that I'll let Skelly and fill in and talk about strategy.
Yeah, so the big shift we'll see here is that where Meltdown, the objective is all about you got to get these bots in, right? So your life has, a little less value in Meltdown because, if you die to get some bots in or you die to stop some from getting in, that's worth it, right?
Yeah.
But in Incursion, you still have bots and they can really help you push in, they can really help you do damage. Most of at the end of the day, the damage, defending your sentry and killing their sentry, that's going to be, 90% the player's work. And, the minions are just there to help out. So that'll be one of the big changes we'll be seeing is that getting those picks, which is why, talked a second ago about Gulp being considered a little better by Dunk Squad on this. Getting those kills is really important. And when we talk about, damage, we see Dunk Squad likes melee, but here, melee still do fine, but range has the advantage that they can, start poking at that sentry from range, and they don't need to kind of hard commit to a fight on it.
Sure. And can we also talk a little bit about Echelon and this particular map? And maybe we can talk a bit about what characters we might see selected to help better fit Echelon.
So I was honestly quite surprised to see Echelon. I'd say one of the least liked maps, probably.
It is the least popular Incursion map, without a doubt. It's the least picked out of all of our Incursion maps. It's an interesting pick. Early on in development, it had some serious performance issues. We patched it once mid last year and brought that up, and then with our winter update in the spring, we made some major strides with performance and got all of our maps and modes optimized to the point that even on the original Xbox One and the PS4, we're running at 60 frames per second, a big thing for our fans. A lot of people have talked about, and very important for competitive matches just like this.
Absolutely.
One of the things I think is going to empower more of these types of tournaments for players who are highly competitive and want that high performance. Echelon's actually running okay, but it's got some challenges.
Yeah, and a big part of that is that when you get to the first sentry, you're walking in, there's kind of these short dual staircases next to each other and then a wide pillar between them. And you'd see a lot of, in pub games, there'd be a lot of strategies of using Cleese and Umbra, which we may or may not see here. It can be a fun kind of cheese strategy. But basically, they'd set up a base behind that pillar, and you would just siege there for ages. And it didn't matter if you were, doing anything because it was really, really hard for them to break out.
Right.
Because compared to some of the other ones, like Monuments, where you have that kind of the tunnel you can flank with, and then you have the pillars you can jump across. You do have one of the problems you have with Echelon is that you kind of see every flank. Like at one point you'll see there's a raised bridge, which is the main path, and from there you can see anyone attempting to pass by.
Got you.
So there's a lot less kind of opportunity to sneak or wrap around,
Sure.
or really do anything but a head-on fight. So once you're behind and you need to fight up your own staircase, it can be difficult.
So there's definitely visibility as a key factor when it comes to this, and playing to your strengths and playing to your height advantage whenever you can. So let's talk a little bit about some of the selections that we've had so far. What are some of these characters that stand out to you, considering the map and the variant?
Well, obviously, I mean, this is one of the first times in the day that Boulder has made it through a banned pick phase. Again, really tanky character. He's probably going to be used to cut off some of the longer sight lines here. There are a couple of places where you can really see for a long place across the map. If you have to move back to kind of that second defense of the second turret, your team is mostly funneled through a long straight hallway. It's a place where Boulder can be really, really effective at mounting a defense. Now, it's Dunk Squad who has Boulder, and I'm not sure that we're going to see them get pushed back to that second defensive wave. They're usually pretty strong, but a good pick, and if in the right hands, I think you're going to see him be very devastating.
Yeah, so an interesting one also with this draft here. I mean, you know, we do have Galilei on the other team, who's kind of the big other shield defender character.
Yep.
And we'll see similar things from there. You know, both that staircase represents a big choke point, and again, Randy talked about that long hallway on the second sentry, where tanks can have a a good effect. But you know, I was talking a second ago about how range DPS is preferred here. You know, we saw Dunk Squad; they really liked. You know, they had multiple melee DPS, but now they have only Shane. You know, Boulder, technically a defender, even if his DPS does get pretty fantastic near the end of the game. But one thing they've opted for here, and I imagine this combo is going to look pretty painful, is they've got Beatrix and Marquis. Now, Marquis, similar to Benedict, almost all of his helixes just in some way, shape, or form make him better at shooting people. You know, he can get like damage, reload speed, attack speed, magazine size. So his DPS can like, you know, double from level 1 to level, you know, not even including gear and the level scaling, you naturally get a little more damage. He can just, you know, like double his base potential for DPS.
So let's take a quick look also while we're getting everything set up here at the gear. And maybe also point out if there's anything else that you guys noticed that's a little bit different. Granted, you know, Incursion versus Meltdown, two very different goals. Maybe the gear changes up a little bit depending on the variant, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'll see already right here. There's only a total, 5 free items, and none of them are wrenches. Here, the elite bots help, and you can use them kind of for a timing push. If you grab thralls, which I guess we can mention in a second, you know, use them as kind of an extra buffer. The minions do hurt the sentry quite a bit. It's just that there's only one wave, and it's 5 people trying to kill it. So a lot of the time, it's pretty easy to take it out. But here we'll tend to see more expensive gear coming out, a lot more blue and purple, because naturally the match is generally just going to go a little longer. So people expect that they'll be able to get that stuff online.
Yeah, I will talk about, you know, a little bit of kind of, again, watching players who are really, really excellent at what they do. You heard in kind of the lead up to the match when Ernesto was talking to the teams that Lost Heroes has a very good Caldarius player in their ranks. That's Odiferous Hermit, and he's playing Caldarius right now. So I would expect to see Caldarius make a difference here, you know, and one of the things that Dunk Squad's going to need to do is they're going to need to find a way to make him less effective. He's having a retreat right now, which is not unusual for a Caldarius. Again, he's kind of squishy early on, and Caldarius has to apply his amazing mobility at getting in and out of engagements. He's picking some good engagements with Boulder right there.
Can we talk a little bit about positioning as well? I mean, sometimes we're seeing overextension, other times we're seeing pokes, maybe playing off of the walls, doing quick shots and then shuffling back around. Can we talk about tactics and kind of how the map plays an advantage to that?
Yeah, I mean, particularly, you know, we're seeing some of these melee, you know, they are getting a little overextended, but the thing is, they're the guys who are going to have to start these fights. So sometimes, you know, you just end up in a position that's too bad. And actually, right here, we've seen an awesome double bubble, which only results in 1 kill, and we're going to get a follow-up stun from Boulder. I think they should be able to grab this one right here pretty quickly. But part of this is just, especially in this mode, I think they're feeling that pressure, you know, I'm talking about with this staircase we're seeing here is, you need to get aggressive, and you really need to get the footing here because it can be very hard to come back. So I think we're seeing a little bit higher risk positioning, people trying to get, you know, maybe lower percentile chances on an initiation, but still taking it because they do not want to be pushed back. It is very, very hard to get out once you're pushed back on this map.
Saw a great little engagement there by Wrath being played by Luckmod against, Boulder being, Wrath being played by Luckmod versus Boulder being played by Cade on Dunk Squad. a good engagement. Now, Luckmod's a really solid Wrath player. I've seen him a little bit. And again, using some of Wrath's knock up and push back to get him around. Again, just trying to pull Boulder out of the equation. I expect that to be a kind of a, you're going to watch Boulder again. I don't think has died yet in the match. Really, really solid play, and it is going around with little health. Just watch him. He's going to go down here. Boulder is building some the healing station. His health regen gives him a lot of sustain in the map. He's going to recover as he runs around. Boulder gets a little hurt. He runs out, picks up some shards. He comes back ready to fight again. It's one of the other things that just makes him really, really annoying to deal with in a map like this, because like all of our Eldred faction characters, they have no shields but very high health regen.
Is there any particular things that you think that people should be building on this particular map that will aid them greatly? Or is this something where you should invest early into yourself, your build, and try to see if you can force that initial tempo and swing it forward like Dunk Squad is doing right now?
It's interesting on this map versus some of the other, Overgrowth, which is one of the other incursion maps we've seen quite a bit of. There's that lightning turret in the middle, which is neutral, so both teams can build it. Here you actually get 2 neutral accelerators, which speed you and your minions up and slow enemy and enemy minions down. So you see people build those, but they're very exposed. So this map in particular, I'd say, is one of the ones where people worry a little less about buildables. It's also, the Thumper covering your sentry is in a, I'd say, maybe slightly less effective angle than on some other maps. So it's still worth building, but a lot of the time it'll end up, the sentry will walk in front of it and it won't do much. So really the only thing is to keep, the accelerator he just built is, I think, immediately being shot by Marquis. But you don't want to build that because naturally there's kind of, and this more akin to Dota where you see body blocking, right, to change where the minions are meeting. The accelerators, there's many of them on this map. So if you end up breaking, like, say you snuck in and broke some of the opposing ones, your minion waves would naturally just be meeting way, way closer to their side. So that's really the only buildable factor on this map for the economy. It's just keeping the accelerators up. Even if they are very vulnerable most of the time, getting your minions to start fighting closer to their side is always, pretty handy.
In fact, talking about the accelerators, you watched Silver Nighthawk playing Galilea there come in and destroy Dunk Squad's accelerator to keep them from pushing that advantage there on the center lane. Again, Galilea has a lot of survivability, easy for her to come down and lay down some damage, take out that buildable, and to be able to peel back off and get back to healing. Again, got a really some solid healing back there with the Lonnie being played by Mecha Panda on the Lost Heroes there. Again, seeing some really good, solid play. Really not yet seeing any big advantage by either team here yet. Levels are kind of even. In fact, you see maybe a little bit of trailing again there by Lost Heroes, but not much at all. Still a pretty even match here. No damage on either sentry so far. So trying to win that first big push with the minions meeting in the middle there on the bridge.
Especially in this mode, it can be harder to develop a really distinct XP advantage because, it's just that one wave. It's not like you could have someone potentially like, Caldarius say like shoot a flashbang into one wave, then quickly scurry to the other one, and end up getting XP from both of them, or situations like that. So, we'll see here, even if, one team starts kind of getting the advantage in positioning, is they'll still have relatively even XP, probably until the first sentry goes down.
Yeah, I expect when that happens, again, you'll probably see one of those great plays. You'll see a double or a triple kill on the other team. You'll see some big advantage. If they can do that at a time that, again, they have a minion push, or they have double thralls, or a back thrall coming through, or even super minion, it's going to take that type of thing, I think, to break the first sentry on this and get through this really kind of mayhem of a combat in the middle.
Yeah, and saying that, though, we do see Wrath getting picked off there, and we're actually starting to get to the point. Respawn times are starting to scale up a little bit.
So maybe these guys have been both locked into almost a stalemate. Originally, we saw Dunk Squad pushing into Lost Heroes territory, but Lost Heroes has managed to find the way to push out their opposition. Could you guys maybe talk about some of the characters that people should be looking out for, that maybe are the initiators that would start some of these team fights and could potentially be the X factors that can push the fights and tides of war into their favor?
So the big things, looking at Dunk Squad first, Boulder will be one of them. His dash when he goes forward, if it hits someone, it'll knock them back, and then if they go into a wall or a fellow player, they'll get stunned. And if they actually hit a fellow player, both of them will get stunned. So that's why part of why you're seeing he in particular really wants to come from behind, because even if you knock him back and stun him, if you knock him back, sometimes it just knocks him far enough that they end up getting the safety. So, and the other one we'll be looking for is Shane and Orox. So you can see right now on the screen, it's the very large, like kind of demon thing with the massive claws. Has the pull and then also has the stealth, which when you finish it, there's a little AoE around you that slows people. So that'll be Dunk Squad's kind of primary form of initiation. And looking over at Lost Heroes, we'll be getting Galilea at the top, which, you know, we talked a little about before and been on board with, you know, a sword and board. She has a solid single target stun, and then her Desecrate, which puts the field on the ground. Probably one of the most lopsided helixes in the game right now is her helix, where she can choose to make that a vacuum, so she activates it and sucks everyone in. That's a very, very strong initiation method. The other two we'll be looking at for them is Alani's Bubble, which, you know, we've seen a few times, and I commented on, you know, a good double bubble earlier. That'll just, you know, do it, cast it, there's a short delay, and then it shoots them up in the air and holds them in a bubble for a few seconds. And then finally for Lost Heroes, we'll have Wrath, who has a knockup, which also normally has, yeah, see, he's getting bubbled at the end. Wrath, who has a knockup, which also has a silence attached to it. And so those will kind of be the initiation methods for both teams.
Man, a double kill there for Cade playing Boulder. Took out both Mecha Panda and Luckmod, Alani and Wrath in a combo there, just again diving their sentry. And now both teams with a little bit of damage on both sentries, but Dunk Squad really taking advantage of getting a couple kind of Boulder's double kill there, getting down into that sentry, getting it down. They're still ticking down damage on that. While all of Lost Heroes is back up, they need to get back and respond to that pretty quickly. They finally got a minion wave that's gonna force Dunk Squad back a little bit on that. Caldarius against Silver Nighthawk coming through there, trying to harass and do what he can to do that. Being chased by Kid Ultra, played by Red X there, who's got a lot of missiles, does some AoE damage, but Caldarius looks like he's gonna get the hop on him and get back through there and turn the corner and get away.
So one thing we're going to be looking out for here in a second is Boulder, who is a fraction away from 5. I'd say possibly the strongest level 5 power spike in the game. His ultimate doesn't really, as we've just seen him cast here, it's not, you know, a big hit or anything like that. What it does is he gets a rune of power on his axe and his shield. And so his abilities respectively will get a bonus while he has it. In particular, his axe throw, as we just saw there, becomes a giant explosive axe throw. And when he holds up his shield, he gets healed for, is it 25 or 50 now?
I'd have to, I'll look it up.
I was going to say, I feel like it got changed from 50 at some point, but he will get healed for some fraction of the damage he takes while he's holding up the shield, which makes him really, really hard to kill, and also greatly increases his kill potential himself. So I'd say him and Eldragon have the biggest level 5 power spikes.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers on me right there, but it's when he's running his ultimate, his runes of power. 25% of damage blocked into health.
Yeah.
Not as I think it used to be a little bit higher than that, which was
I think it was 50
dumb.
at some point.
And we fixed that a little bit. Maybe not enough, because Boulder's still pretty devastating. But converts a lot of, I mean, because he's a focus. He gets you mad at him. You do a lot of damage, and then he runes of power, holds his shield up, and heals them all back up. Dunk Squad taking down that first sentry there, finished the last few points of damage on it, pushing him back. Again, you see the engagement back there. Shane and Orox kind of killing that thrall that has been released there.
So we're seeing the first objective going to Dunk Squad, and as they take that first sentry. Now, I think the big question that I have for you guys is, what is some of the comeback mechanics that are built into Battleborn that Lost Heroes can just naturally take advantage of? Maybe it's XP, maybe it's how you can find more economy and build that more effectively. Maybe something becomes more available to you, like something to build later on, deeper into the maps.
Sure. I mean, there are several of them. I mean, certainly you have the Thrall that you can kill and release on your side. You have the super minions you can build. They can level up and build their defensive turrets. They can they can focus on just playing a little bit more defensive and try to close some of that level gap by killing minions and look for opportunistic kills on players. There's several ways to do it. Against a team like Dunk Squad, though, they're probably not going to get a lot of advantage to exercise that. Dunk Squad is going to take this advantage, keep them pushed back. And again, Ice here on Marquis, shooting the Cranky Troll, playing Ernest there, is going to pick up a kill on him. In fact, going to pick up a double kill of both the Cranky Troll and Silver Nighthawk on Lost Heroes. And is going to try to finish out Mecha Panda playing Alani there. Hopping around. She's just going to get away, but again, Marquis with incredible range. It was actually a great knock-up by the Lost Heroes that kept Marquis from converting that.
Yeah, and one other kind of comeback mechanic we'll see is the respawn time scaling starts to get pretty severe. So once you've got yourself, even just say a 2-level advantage. I mean, we saw a moment there where someone was killed like 10 seconds into someone on Lost Heroes was killed like 10 seconds into Beatrix respawn, and they still came back faster than Beatrix. But another factor is that as you get ahead, the XP in Battleborn for player kills and leveling up, unlike some games where you get, say, like, 100 from a kill, and then when they're level 2, it's like 110. With Battleborn, it goes up, like, it's 180, then it's 360, then it's like 360, then it's like 540, etc., etc. So when you're just like 2 levels behind, you're like, say, level 5, you kill a level 7, you can almost get a level from it. Like, the scaling of it makes it so that killing people who have a level advantage on you is very beneficial.
Yeah. Again, you're talking about comeback mechanics. I always forget about that one because we put that one in so early in the game we don't think about it anymore. But yeah, absolutely. If you're behind, we wanted a little bit of that. Of course, you got to be really careful. I mean, we spent a lot of time at the game playing around with the balance on that, and if you added too many self-balancing mechanics, what you end are very long matches that tend to stalemate in the middle. We want to be sure that if a team is good and has shown good skill and use that and won an advantage in the match, they need to be able to hold and retain that advantage too. So while there are some comeback mechanics that smart teams can use, if they've just had a bad turn of luck or some really bad engagements early on, if you're going to see a disparity in skill, a better team should still be able to press that advantage and maintain that advantage and win the match.
Because there are seeing that, the Lost Heroes have managed to just regain a little bit of ground here, so they're at least back out of their kind of side, which is the first step if they want to come back. That can be one of those issues is, even say you manage to get 2 or 3 kills, but you're sitting at your last sentry barely holding on, is by the time you push up, you destroy some of the structures, get through the minion wave, even if they have a long respawn time, they could still potentially be back. Yeah,
here we're watching Mecha Panda play Alani. Really there, just Alani again, that mechanic, she's trying to hit anything in there to keep all of her team alive. She needs to get hits with her auto attack. Unfortunately, she has to retreat, force back. Boulder follows her. He gets her isolated alone. Uses probably his dash to knock her in the wall, stunner, and then finishes her off. Again, like you said, after level 5, Boulder's damage starts to scale way up, and you're starting to see that be a real factor here. One of the reasons he's been banned so often in this tournament.
And we did see a little fun play there. He, depending on how you build him, he can get a ton of movement speed when he throws his axe away. He has kind of a mechanic where he throws the axe out, he can go pick it up, but while he doesn't have it out, he uses his fist instead. And by default, he gets some move speed, then you can Helix for that as well, so he can start going, I'd say, by a large margin, the fastest character in the game. So he's got a lot of things you can do with this kid.
Yeah, and he's getting again some smart combo play with him. Dunk Squad picked up. I think we've got not Mega Beef, but we've got Red X playing Kid Ultra back there. Again, who's probably choosing to take those drones and attach the boulder as he runs around, so he can heal even more as he runs. And then you're seeing Beatrix picked up by Mega Beef Bowl, who again can accentuate Boulder even further. Give Boulder lifesteal, which is crazy, and give him attack speed, which is super crazy for a Boulder powered up at the end of the game.
Yeah, talking about that, I mean, it's a good chance we're going to see it here. Boulder also has at level 10 another power spike, and when he has his ultimate up on his axe rune, He gets, I want to say it's like 2% damage per 500 health. That's what it is, something like that nowadays.
Increases melee damage by 18%. Oh, the level 10.
2% for every 250
damage for every
health,
250
actually.
health.
So when you're talking about a guy who can get, well over like 3k HP, he's all of a sudden picking up a massive amount of bonus damage when he's just left-clicking people.
Well, at level 10 without bonuses, Boulder is sporting around 2,300 health. So he's already getting like close to 20% bonus damage without considering any factor of gear or other buffs that might be applying to him and all that. They can take that a little bit higher by really leaning into it. But yeah, that makes him super lethal. It may be one of those things we need to bring back a little bit. But okay, so I was wrong. Kid Ultra again playing kind of the more traditional use of drones. He's changed them so they don't attach to players. They're actually staying as more static healing areas, it looks like. We've seen Dunk Squad do that before. They'll stack 2 or 3 of those healing drones together and create really hot spots of healing, which is a great way for Kid Ultra to play a strong healing role.
Yeah, and incursion that pays off as kind of a way to set up, kind of a siege camp situation where you have this point where your guys can sit and heal up and then go back in. And, it's why, we've seen Ambra used for similar purposes. That's why I mentioned earlier the possibility we might see Ambra or Cleese here, because that strategy on this map can work out really well for them. But instead we're seeing Kid Ultra, use that Helix to play that role. And it does look like now
we're getting damage on that last sentry. Shields have gone down. Dunk Squad's got it down to 41%. Or, sorry, not 41%, 41% overall between both sentries. Down to 41, probably about 10% down on that, 20% down on that sentry. Still trying to convert that into a full-on push here.
And we're seeing Caldarius there. He goes in, but immediately he's just sent packing. There's a lot of damage coming online, and here we go, Boulder level 10. There's really not a lot in the game that's gonna stop that guy right now. I mean, maybe he can't quite 1v5, but it's pretty close to it once he hits level 10. So this is now, if it wasn't already going to be a struggle for Lost Heroes to come back, that's going to make it it would be beyond impressive right now if they were able to pull this back.
Yeah, now they're trying to move up with their minions here. You might want to watch out.
Yeah, we're seeing there, I mean, Beatrix has that kind of plague mechanic for ultimate. We're seeing there that ends up doing a lot of damage to those guys and really kind of hurt that attempt to push out.
Ooh. Beatrix taken down there. It's a good play by Lost Heroes, taking down Mega Beef Bowl in support. But we're on the sentry.
This looks like this could be the final push here from Dunk Squad. Not much more to go from here. As long as we continue to see these damage continue to rack up on this final sentry, we could be seeing our winner.
Oh my God! It looks
Chocktaw
like
Festival of Gaming Champion
to solo the sentry at the end.
And again, Boulder, big devastating hit, and that will be Dunk Squad.
Our favorites coming into this tournament, Dunk Squad has continued to show why they are one of the dominant forces in Battleborn right now. Fantastic job, not only coming into this tournament and showing a dominant performance in Grand Finals, but never dropping a set throughout this entire tournament, winning this in winner's side.
Yeah, a really, really great performance. I know those guys have played together for a long time. Again, we've talked multiple times throughout the day how teamwork makes a huge difference. Both of the teams in this final match have a lot of experience playing with each other on their respective platforms. Again, you see them. The score doesn't show it off, but these are great players, great teams. Like you said earlier, Neptune, really in their respective platforms. Dunk Squad with more of a reputation from the PC community. Lost Heroes really great from the PS4 community. Really strong performers in both areas.
So there it is.